Are you ready?
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
I was right.
Let's go!
I am the best.
And here are your hosts, Jessica Town and Rob Lange.
You're a jackass.
Embrace the madness.
I want to talk about a team that back in July we thought they were an inept organization. But then Doc Rivers is here, Daryl Morey's here, and now I don't think anyone has ever been this excited for a December start to the NBA, just so we don't have to worry about the Eagles anymore. And that's the 76ers, who I know are near and dear to your heart, Ty. Just talk about, how excited you are to see some of these new pieces along with Doc and Joe and Ben this year.
I'm excited about a team that makes sense. Mostly, the team didn't make sense last year. I tried to talk my way into it. Really, Al Horford never made sense. Now you have a real roster. You have a roster that makes sense and pieces that fit together. And I think that alone could make a big difference. We talked about with the Eagles how Wentz wasn't necessarily put in the right position. Well, last year especially, Joel and Ben weren't put in the right decisions. And Joel can overcome it because of all the things that he does. He didn't have as good a year, but because he can do a lot of things, you don't notice it as much. You notice it more with Simmons in leverage spots because of the things he doesn't do. But you wouldn't worry nearly as much about the things he doesn't do when you put a bunch of players around him that make sense. And adding Curry and Green make a really big difference. And now Tobias makes a lot more sense at the 4 versus playing the 3. The whole roster makes a lot of sense. They talked that bully ball stuff last year when you really only had one player that got to the foul line and Embiid. The bully ball and the lack of threes doesn't work unless you're getting to the foul line a lot. Well, Richardson didn't get to the foul line. Horford didn't get to the foul line. Tobias didn't get to the foul line. And Ben at times seemed like he didn't want to get to the foul line. You're not bullying anybody like that because you're playing 3 versus 2 for a bunch of possessions. Now you can still get to the line. Embiid's still going to get to the line. He'll still going to be in the top 3 or so getting to the line because that's what he'll always do. Ben Simmons will have more lanes to get to the lane, get more lanes to get to the hole, and I think he'll get fouled there. And then you have shooters on the flank. The team just makes sense. So in it, separate from the coaching and everything else, this is just a flat better roster. And now you're just hoping that Embiid, Simmons, or both can make the ascension from all-star to superstar, because if that happens, this team can win really big.
You brought up a good point in, moving Tobias from the 3 to the 4 and, kind of where he should be and where he should be playing. Do you think that now, especially with Doc Rivers, we're going to be able to see that Tobias Harris that was a fringe all-star in 2019 and the guy that we thought the Sixers were trading for, now that he might actually be put back in a better position, in the position that he was thriving in out there?
That's a tough question. I would like to just say yes, but then I have to now leave it open that perhaps that half a year was a fluke. Like I think that Doug Peterson, like we were talking about in the last subject, might have been a little bit of a fluke.
Sure.
But I think if you split the difference, if you take the Tobias Harris we've had since he's been with the Sixers and you put it right in between the one with the Clippers, I think you get a player that can really help, especially as a third option. Last year, a lot of times he was the second option because of the way the roster was built. Horford, a lot of times was in a spot where Simmons probably should have been, and Embiid was going to be where he was going to be, and you didn't really have enough balance on the floor. Now I know Embiid's the first option. Like I know that for a fact. Like death taxes, Embiid being the first option, that's easy. I think Simmons will have the ability to be the second option, and if you push him down to the third option, you're pretty good. You remember the team that almost beat Toronto, he's like the fourth option. Very big difference. Like now, last year they asked him to be the second option. I think he was miscast. Now being the third option, and there'll be times where Curry's hot and other guys, he'll be down to the fourth option. Now I think you're probably more in line where he should be. So I think he'll be in between. He'll be better than we've seen him, but I don't know if he can play at that Clippers level because he never played at it before that, right. And he clearly hasn't played it since that. So I'm hoping to split the difference there.
So we got a couple comments here. One talking about, it's going to be nice to see a team that can shoot the 3. I think that's what everybody wants to see, especially, as you said, no one's going to harp on Ben as much about the shooting if he's got these guys around him that are scoring and Ben's doing his playmaking abilities.
Right.
One thing now that has popped up because when Woj tweets something out and has the name Sixers in it, the whole town goes crazy, right? And Woj tweeted out the other day that James Harden had mentioned that, one of the places he'd like to be is in Philly. Most of those reports are followed up by Philly has basically said anything involving a Ben Simmons as a non-starter. I'm curious, Ty, as someone who follows the game like you do, what's your whole take on that? Is James Harden a guy? I mean, I know what type of player he is, but when you talk about his contract and that he could be out of it in a year, and you talk about the age of Ben compared to them, is this a deal that you have to think about making, or is it a non-starter for you as well?
Well, you have to think about it, and this is the reason. What are the chances that they win a championship this year? As good as they are, like what odds do you can? What do you do? Do you think they can win a title this year?
Yeah, see, I think it's tough to say yes to that question right now.
Right, right. So now if you let's say hypothetically you were to trade Ben Simmons for him and you have Joel Embiid with James Harden, you can't then say that you can't win a title. So while the contract and all that, what you're doing is you're taking a window that may or may not be open, and you're creating a window that is open. Even if it's open for 2 years, it's open because you just said right now that you didn't think it was open. So that's why you have to think about it. Now, whether or not you do, it's a different deal. But I think to dismiss it as out of hand, then you then have to give some assurances to yourself that Simmons or Embiid or both are about to take a massive leap. Simmons especially, because he's a guy who's going to have the ball in his hand. If he's going to take this leap, then by all means, don't even consider it. But if you're questioning for a second that perhaps he can't make that leap, then you have to consider it, because as is, you can't win a title. And that's the part that's challenging. Like, I'm not saying that you should want to make the trade. I'm saying that there are people who dismiss it as out of hand. And I think it's a mistake because unless you truly believe, like ESPN did their top 100, they put Embiid at 14, Simmons at 16, and obviously Harden's in the top 10. Do you believe Ben Simmons? Okay. And also, you're talking about a guy who's finished in the top 3 in the MVP several times and has won an MVP. You have to ask yourself, will Simmons ever win an MVP? Will Simmons ever be in the top 3 multiple years in the MVP? Will he, like, you have to ask those questions when you say no way, no how. That's why I think you have to consider it, because we keep hoping that Simmons takes the leap. Meanwhile, you can get a player who already has taken said leap. And that's why I think you have to at least think about it.
Okay. What if you didn't have to include Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid in that trade? Do you do that trade and bring? I mean, I don't know if that's possible, but are you bringing James Harden here?
Yes, absolutely, no doubt. Like, of course, like then you're going to win the title. I don't care what else. No. If you have Harden, Simmons, and Embiid, you 100% would win the NBA title. You win more than one. You'd win 3. You would definitely win 3. I don't care. I would personally drive them on a bicycle to Houston.
Okay.
Like, you would definitely win the title. And the reason you would definitely win the title is you become a completely unguardable team. First of all, I don't know if there's an NBA that can guard Harden and Embiid. Because I'll say, okay, think of any defense you want to play. You want to go big? All right. So what happens if we do a pick and roll? Your big's going to switch on James Harden? Yeah, all right, sure. Let's say you go small. So who with 6'8" guys going to guard Embiid? Because Harden's still on the court, so like you have to pay attention to him. Like, I don't think there's you'd have to move the earth to guard that team. Like, you could, and then you have Ben Simmons too. You would definitely they would win the title. They would in the playoffs 4, 8, 12, 16. They play 18 games to win the title. 16 is the minimum. They'd win the title playing like 18 games. They would the league would not the league they would look like the Warriors did before when Durant. Like, it would be unfair. It would be the happiest time in Philadelphia history if that could happen.
You just took the words right out. I was going to say that would be such a glorious turn of events that it's almost too good to ever be in Philadelphia. Like, you just,
well, and that's where he made he expanded. So you have the Nets, which they have nothing to really trade. That would just be a preference situation. The Bucks truly don't really have anything to trade either. Miami's a little bit interesting, but they said they wouldn't include Tyler Hero. And then you have the Sixers. So if you're the Sixers right now, unless Miami's going to move Hero, you probably just sit on it because you don't need to make that trade right now. Like, it's compacted off season. You're going to start. That's probably a trade deadline type of deal in that situation. Then you probably wait it out. if Miami decides to include Hero, then you have to, once again, you just have to ask yourself, and everybody out there watching and listening, you just have to ask yourself, will Ben Simmons ever win an MVP? Because you're saying, hell no, I don't want an MVP, and that's fine. Will the guy you keep ever win an MVP? Now, we thought that he was supposed to be a transcendent player, and maybe this is the year where he makes that leap. Giannis made the leap. No one saw it coming. He had Jason Kidd coaching him. They switched coaches. Giannis makes the leap, wins the MVP. And no, the Bucks haven't won a damn thing, but now you think that they're on the cusp. Is Simmons going to make that leap? And if he is, then of course, why would you move him? You wouldn't even consider it. But if he's not, then you got to think about it. That's why it's but you don't have to do anything right now unless Miami. And then what I'm wondering is, why doesn't Miami just trade Jimmy Butler for him?
Yeah.
If they offer Jimmy Butler, then the Sixers, then it's clear the Bucks couldn't beat that, the Nets couldn't beat that, and the Sixers could beat that, but only one way.
Yeah, it's a great point. And, I kind of wondered, I want to ask what you think about Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers. They have been so adamant publicly about talking about Ben and how much they love him. I mean, Daryl Morey went, I believe it was on your guys' station, and said, look, I'm ending this now. We came here to win with Ben and Joe. We want to win with Ben and Joe.
Yep.
Is it a PR nightmare now if they were to turn around and flip Ben Simmons?
For like 2 days. till you saw Harden play. And he goes out and gets you 38 and 8, and Embiid gets you 29 on 7 shots because he got fouled a million times because Harden draws so much attention. Like, it would be a temporary PR situation. Like, so it's not something you would worry about. I think the way Harden plays probably comes off a little anti-Philadelphia, and that's why a lot of people don't like him.
Me.
That's Jeff.
That's me.
Right.
I'm terrified of that.
Right, but when you haven't been alive for any Sixers winning.
No, I have not.
You haven't been alive for any, so I think maybe we should try another city's way. That is the one flaw in our city. We have a lot of civic pride for a city that loses too much.
But James Harden hasn't won anything. He's
Right,
won MVP, but I don't care about an MVP. I want an MVP championship.
Did he play with it Embiid?
No, but I mean, he's played with Russell Westbrook. He's played with Chris Paul.
Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul. These aren't good fits. You got a match made in heaven. I would just like you to grab a whiteboard. You're a teacher. Anybody got a whiteboard, a chalkboard, a notebook? I want you to draw on the court where James Harden is, draw where Embiid is, and you figure out how you guard those guys. And I just don't think it's possible. And that's the thing. Look, I get it. He hasn't won yet. I get it. But you know that he has been to the conference finals. Has Simmons and Embiid been to the conference finals? No. See, that's the thing. I am all for having hope and projecting.
Sure.
I just want everybody, when they're making their projections, to realize just how high you have to project. He's a fantastic player.
I grow concerned because it makes me think just a little bit about the way that the team dynamic went when they had Jimmy Butler here. And it was a guy who had to have the ball in his hands and who kept the ball in his hands for a good amount of time in the shot clock. And you saw Ben Simmons get very disengaged in that Toronto series, and he didn't really know where he was supposed to be or what he was supposed to be doing without being able to shoot a little bit. Now, the roster is definitely different this year, 150%. And they have different shooters around there. But that's my only concern as a guy who's played that way for so long. Is he able to adjust that a little bit to be able to play his game and do what he does while also, running that kind of two-man game with Embiid, but also with Ben Simmons still able to contribute at a high level with the ball in his hands or out of his hands? That's the only thing that I am trying to wrap my head around at this point, because I can't stand watching James Harden play. I absolutely despise watching the Houston Rockets play because I hate watching him dribble for 19 out of 24 seconds and then do something different. If that can change and everything can work out, that's great. But that is where my concern comes in, is the way that Ben essentially disappeared from an offensive standpoint against Toronto when there was a guy that liked to have the ball in his hands.
Yeah, and that's all fair. The question is, where do you lay the blame? Me personally, I lay that blame with Ben. You should go find something to do. And what it means is go get in the corner, and perhaps when you get the ball, you shoot that corner three. But this is how I look at the James Harden situation. Jessica, I'm pretty sure you're in a relationship, engaged, in fact. Rob, are you in a relationship of any kind?
I am married with 3 children. I'm in.
Okay. All right. So there are probably things that your significant other does that you think is cute. You think it's cute. But if some rando did it, maybe you wouldn't think it's as cute. Whatever it might be. Whatever it might be. A kiss on the forehead, whatever it is in the world. Your significant other, you think it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was somebody in somebody else's house that tried that, you wouldn't like it so much.
Sure.
With James Harden, when it's in Houston, you don't like him dribbling and then getting to the foul line and getting all. But if he was doing it here and he was your man, now all of a sudden, those 38 points that he got last night in the win, you don't give a damn how he got them. And all those assists he got to go with it, you didn't give a damn that it was boring because he just went 16 of 18 from the foul line. And Embiid just had 28 points on 7 shots because he went 15 of 17 from the foul line. So I think a lot of it has to do with where the person plays.
Yeah.
People thought AI was a gunner in other cities. They didn't think that here. He was just playing with bums like Eric Snow and these guys couldn't score. That's how. So I think that would be a big part of it. And I think everyone would grow to love it if it was here. You don't like it because you're watching it there.
Sure.
It's almost that Terrell Owens type of thing, right? You loved him and his antics when he was here. Minute he put on that Dallas Cowboy helmet, you hated everything that guy did. He was public.
Same guy. And it was the exact same guy. Yeah. Same guy. So, and I think that Harden gets, because of his style, kind of gets a bad rap. He would be the best. Here's the tough part. He's better than Iverson was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
So that this is where both guys sort of have to take up. This is what I mean about taking a leap. There's pressure on them. You got the right coach, you have the right situation, you have the right roster. Which one of them or both of them are going to take that next step up? And one way where Ben Simmons could take that next step up is if there's a good 2-man going with Curry and Embiid, kind of like with JJ Redick, don't just stand in the dunker spot. Go do something different. It's 2 years now since that Toronto series. If you're the same player, you're not going to take that jump. And I think that we're letting Simmons in particular off the hook a little bit by saying, well, if they don't fit with him, how about he has to fit around somebody else because his limitation is very unique to him. I think we talk about the shooting perhaps too much, but you can go around to all the other 29 teams and you don't find anybody with that problem. Mm-hmm. So why does everybody keep having to do something to work around the guy with the problem? Oh, wait, so I can't have a drink because you have a problem? Perhaps you should stay home. Right. At some point. That's sort of where I'm looking at with Simmons.
Yeah. Sure. So when you look at the East, the East has been shaken up again. Every year for some reason, this is the one. So no more Gordon Hayward on the Celtics, no more Enes Kanter. They added Tristan Thompson. Kyrie and Kevin Durant, we're going to see that for the first time. The Bucks made some moves a little bit. The Heat obviously were in the finals last year, which is not where I thought they would be. But hey, Toronto lost the pieces. Victor Oladipo's back. Russell Westbrook is now in the East. Where do you see the Sixers falling in the Eastern Conference, and kind of how do you see the Eastern Conference shaking up as a whole this year?
Well, Wizards are a playoff team now.
Okay.
They were borderline before. Westbrook, if the fit is big, so Westbrook fits really well next to Beal and Bertans. You'll have shooting around him because he's not much of a shooter, but now he can really attack the rim. When he collapses, there's going to be open looks to 2 guys on the wing who can really shoot it. And Beal, who was probably underrated, he averaged 30 last year, kind of gets forgotten about. And it's a better fit than with Harden. So the Wizards now are a playoff team. That opener's not a gimme because first of all, it wasn't a gimme last year when the Wizards played the Sixers in particular for whatever reason, but they're a playoff team now. The Bucks are still the best team, at least on paper. They have a lot of chemistry. They changed some parts, but that coach knows how to win in the regular season. Giannis, I don't think it's getting worse. I don't know. We'll find out if he can shoot better. So I think they're the 1 seed. We don't know where the Nets are going to be. They're going to be good. They were a playoff team last year. Obviously, they're going to be good. Maybe they can be as high as the 2 seed. The Celtics are probably still ahead of the Sixers right now until you see it because Tatum has really stepped up. Tatum has taken that leap that we want Simmons to take in that Tatum, for example, off the bounce wasn't really a good three-point shooter. Last year, he was killing people off the bounce. He added something to his game. That's what we're asking Simmons to do. I think the Sixers are 4, and then Miami would be 5. And the reason I say that is the Sixers and the Heat, with the bad Sixers roster, were only within maybe a game and a half of one another last year when the pandemic hit. And then Jimmy Butler's stuff works really well in a bubble. When, like, where can you go? So you can just let Jimmy be Jimmy, and the young guys have to fall in line. Well, they have freedom now. Florida's open, in fact. Like, you wouldn't even know there was a pandemic there. So will all these guys want to fall in line and be on Jimmy time this year over 72 games? I don't think so. So I think they'll end up like the 5 seed. Indiana slots in at 6, or Washington somewhere in there, and then we'll figure out the bottom of it. So I think right now they're like the 4. They could rise as high as 2 because we don't know how Durant's fully going to come back, and the Celtics do have some fit things. So I think right now they're 4, which is better than they were last year. That's a home playoff series in the first round, and then they would take on the Bucks in the second round. So to me, that's where my mind puts them until I see evidence. I'm trying not to just round things off of, well, this will happen. I'm now with the Sixers. I need evidence of things because of how let down I was last year.
Sure.
Ty, I got one more question for you. And basically, listen, I was a Brett Brown guy. I stood on a hill by myself all the way to the bitter end. But I also knew that there were flaws there. And I think one of the flaws was holding guys accountable. I just think that Brett didn't hold the stars, I should say, accountable. And I'm curious what you think of guys like Doc and Sam Cassell and some of this coaching staff, how important they're going to be for not necessarily the growth on the floor, but the maturity growth, which I think for me, especially with Joel Embiid, is the biggest thing that I need to see grow. How do you feel they are going to play a role in that maturity that you want to see from Ben and Joe as they take that hopeful next leap?
Here's why that's tough. It's a players' league, and as powerful as Doc Rivers are, he's still a coach. Second off, we were always being unrealistic when it came to Simmons and Embiid to a certain point. Like we talk about, I'm holding Simmons and Embiid to the Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, or the Shaq and Kobe standard. The year before Shaq and Kobe won their first title, they got swept. Jordan was losing, and Pippen were losing to the Pistons over and over again. NBA is a man's league. Boys don't win in the NBA, period. So I think we were having this unrealistic expectation that these boys were going to win. The question is, are they now men? And again, I'm holding them to the highest standard possible. And you're talking about guys who are 27, 28 when they actually win something. Ben Simmons is neither 27 nor 28. You're talking about LeBron. I'm saying there's a few exceptions, Magic, because he had Jabbar, who was league MVP that year, so he wins as a rookie. But like, not really. Larry Bird was 24 when he came into the NBA, so when he wins his second year, he's 26, and he's also playing with a bunch of Hall of Famers. I think we have to look at these things in more historical context when we look at this. Tim Duncan had David Robinson, Avery Johnson, all these veterans with him when he won that first title. I think that we, due to the process, have probably looked at the Sixers in a bit of an unrealistic way. As excited as we are, as people are about the Celtics, they haven't won a damn thing yet with that genius coach, and they haven't won anything. It's really, really hard to win an NBA. It's the hardest sport to win one, the easiest sport to win multiple. And the question for me is the accountability thing is it a lack of accountability, or are they just immature? Mm-hmm. You can't make immature mature. You can't, they can do that themselves. So I think that Brett was in a bit of a tough spot there, in that usually what happens is a coach can take people's butt so far, and the change could be, I think Doc Rivers would upgrade, just like Doug Collins took Michael Jordan and Pippen butt so far. And then Phil Jackson came in. It's like, obviously Phil Jackson was a better coach, but some of that was Jordan was a better human and was more mature and more ready, and Pippen was more mature, and Horace Grant. I think a lot of that is just what happens in the NBA. Look at what they did with the Thunder. Like, I don't know if it was accountability that kept Durant, Westbrook, and Harden from winning a championship, but it was probably that they were too young, because that was 3 straight drafts, and they won 0 for it. I don't think it was accountability. I think it was that they were too young. But that's just makes you, like, it's an uncomfortable answer. It's not satisfying. So I think a lot of it's not going to necessarily be what Doc does. It's that is Joel Embiid now that he's a father and adult. Is Ben Simmons now mature enough to say, even though I hate shooting a basketball for whatever reason, if it's in my head, if it's because I don't think I can help the team, I'll just do it because it helps the team. I think that's where it has to be. And then Doc Rivers will get credit for it. But some of that is like, you guys know, like think about when you were 21 or 19, and then think about yourself now. And I would hope that you would be making better decisions. Is that because someone held you accountable, or did you just get older?
Right.
So that's why I think I understand it's not a great answer as far as like, yes, he's going to come in and make. I think a lot of the change is just going to be, yeah, man. My wife was up all night. The baby was on my nerves, so I'm not really messing around. Like, can we just go win this game and I can go home? That won't be because of Doc. That'll just be because Joel Embiid had a baby.
And maybe, like you say, with it being a players' league, when you added Dwight Howard, who seems to have learned a little bit from his previous mistakes, and you have a Danny Green who's already said, like, I'm going to tell Ben to go shoot. Like, maybe that's what they needed. Maybe those guys weren't necessarily here. I think people had hoped Al Horford was going to be that, but I don't think he ever fit. From the word go, he was confused, and he never took on that role, and that's where – last season ended up for the 76ers. But listen, Ty, I can't thank you for how gracious you've been with your time here tonight, man. I know you work all.
I'm having fun, man. I go as long as you guys want. Go another 5 hours.
Yeah, you're used to doing that, man. I know that. But listen, I want to give you an opportunity to tell people outside of the Fanatic, anything else that you're getting into. Is Sixers Outsiders going on this year?
Talk about that next week.
Talk about that next week. There you go. All right, there's a little.
We'll talk about the Outsiders next week. Mike Missinelli show, obviously 2 to 6 every Monday through Friday on 97.5 The Fanatic and NBC Sports Philadelphia. The Tyrone Johnson show every Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon on 97.5 The Fanatic. And then next week we'll talk about the basketball stuff. I think it'll be for some it'll be really good news. For others it won't be, but there will be news next week regarding that. And I think that's enough work for me. So I think that'll be it for now.
Listen, Ty, I can't thank enough, man. You're one of my favorite guys in the city. I love listening to you on the weekends, and appreciate you coming on with us. And we'd love to have you on again soon, too, man.
Yeah, I will come on again. And props to you guys for doing this the proper way and doing it live. And I know there's a lot of podcasters, if you want to call it, or whatever that they're doing out there. And I will tell each and every one of you, if you're not doing it live, you're not doing it.
Fair enough.
I'm just letting you know. Everything that you do should be one take. If you're doing things with multiple takes, and if you want to stay what you're doing, that's fine. But if you want to expand and grow, you must do what these two individuals are doing. One take every time, unfortunately, is the only way to get better doing what you're doing. And yes, you will make mistakes. Mistakes are part of the deal.
Absolutely. If me and Jess didn't make some mistakes, it wouldn't be as much fun, because sometimes the mistakes are a little bit of fun for us, too.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I really mean that. I know there's a lot of young people that want to get it. They want to grow and things like that. If you're not doing it live and you're doing, I do an hour a week, like, okay, fine. But like, if you're not doing it live, then you're not really doing an hour a week.
Right. Well, we appreciate it, man. And thank you. And we'll talk to you again soon. And hopefully we're going to have some positivity coming up here with the Sixers.
We are. Listen, things are going to turn around. They're going to win on Sunday. The Sixers are going to start. We'll be good.
If the Eagles win on Sunday, you guys know it, man. Your phone lines are going to be insane next week.
You guys will be in my thoughts if they win on Sunday.
Well, they're winning on Sunday.
I've never picked against the Eagles. I'm not going to start now. I'm still going to pick them to win. Never once in my life have I ever picked the Eagles to lose. It is not going to start right now. But I don't have to answer those phones all week.
It's going to be rough, but they're going to win the game. So we're going to have some positivity going. The Sixers will start, and then maybe there'll be an NHL season. Maybe.
There you go.
And Dombrowski today for the Phillies, so that was a good move.
There you go. Hey, we got a guy that wants to win now, and he can't deplete the farm system here because there's no farm system to deplete. So that's
there you go. And he did, and remember the Marlins did win with him, so that should count like for 3.
Yeah, that's a great point.
That's so fair.
All right. All right, thank you so much, man. We'll talk to you again soon, all right?
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. That was Ty Johnson. Listen, I normally, Jess, when we get a guest, you get 15 minutes out of them.
Yeah.
You're on for 45 minutes with us, man. Like, you can't. They're
my favorite, and I don't think, like, there were 2 things that he brought up that I supremely disagree with.
James Harden.
And I don't even feel like I disagree anymore.
I know.
Like,
I want James Harden tomorrow.
Multiple things, and I am just like, but the way he articulates his thoughts, it's logical and it makes sense. And I don't feel like I'm being screamed at by some idiot.
No, and and this is Ty. Listen, I think Ty gets disrespected a little bit by certain people out there. I mean, they all do, right? All these hosts do to a certain.
Oh my God, yeah.
But Ty is he's a guy that, like, for him to take the last few seconds that he was on here and give people to do podcasting a bit of advice. And don't, like, people look at Ty, like, Ty has been a producer for years. I mean, the guy has worked his ass off to get to where he is now. And for him to, not only come on with us, but then to give us 45 minutes and just talk to us, not talk down to us. It was just a conversation. And that's what, listen, I know that we didn't post a lot of the comments. I don't really like doing that when we have a guest because I want the guest to kind of be the guy there, but I appreciate all the comments.
We were reading them the whole time, I promise.
Yeah. There were even some arguments going on in the comments, which is always fun. There were a couple people, I think a Nets fan hopped in here, and Nets and Sixers going at it. It was getting a little heated. Here it is. But Giglio deserves it when he talks about Gabe Kapler. Listen, we have been in contact with Joe Giglio. I have given Joe Giglio the opportunity to come on with us, and he didn't back out. He answered me. His schedules didn't work. I just I don't know how well that would go over, because Jess, when we say we totally disagree with someone, I don't know how many things Joe Giglio said to me and you were like, oh, that kind of makes sense.
Not one thing.
Like I didn't know much about Dombrowski today, and I put something on Twitter and someone said Joe Giglio hated it, which made me instantly love the selection of Dave Dombrowski.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things that, like, I mean, I think Giglio could be like, the sky is blue, and I would try to argue.
Yeah.
That's so I like that. That's just kind of like where it would go. I would try to argue with, like, well, today it's actually a little more gray. Like, that's how he makes me feel.
Absolutely. So Justin, our guy from the Painted Lines, he told me I had to read his comments. So Justin, you got your airtime. It's up there, baby. But Jess, that kind of like, I mean, it was great because we talked about everything we wanted to talk about. We didn't have to be negative the whole time talking about the Eagles who drive you totally insane. Do you have any final thoughts, just kind of going into this weekend with the Eagles, going into next week with the Sixers starting? What are you looking for? What are you looking for out of the Eagles game on Sunday? Because I don't even know. I'm numb right now. I'm numb to the situation.
Them not making me write curse words on my game notes. I am hoping to get through my game notes with no F words written down. That's my goal every week. Each and every week, that's my goal. Hasn't happened.
Now, Chris, come on, man. Come on. Listen, here's where I've gotten on this with the Jalen Hurts thing. I would never root for a guy to fail. And I said this on Party on Broad earlier in the week. I said this to Mr. Crockpot and all my guys over there. I said, but this, and I'm not saying this is Chris, but this faction of the fan base that has wanted to be right about Carson Wentz not being the guy, right? That they're just so gung-ho on Jalen Hurts. I saw someone already call Jalen Hurts, what did he call? He called him, was it Russell Wilson 2.0? Like all this crap. It's like there's that part of me, like I don't even want to be the "see I told you so" guy, but if Jalen Hurts comes out and balls out, like we talk about Ty with the calls and having to deal with the radio and that, but I don't think I could go on Twitter next week. Like I don't think I'd be able to do it because people are just going to be so blinded to the fact. What Ty said is exactly right. When you change a quarterback like this, it always seems like a guy could just come out and go bonkers, right? And play really well in his first game. There's not a lot of tape on him, but it doesn't mean anything. Like, to me, Jalen Hurts could play really well all 4 games. And it still won't mean much to me because look, there's a reason why Jalen Hurts didn't go to the second round, and there's a reason why most people thought that was early for Jalen Hurts, was because a lot of people questioned his quarterbacking ability as a starter over a full 16-game season in the NFL. Like, I want the kid to do well. He's a great kid. I mean, he's a tremendous kid. He's so well-spoken. I want him to succeed. But is it wrong that I want him to succeed somewhere other than Philadelphia?
I hate for myself and I hate for him that he's a Philadelphia Eagle. Because I don't think he deserves the BS that he's been thrown into. And I think he 100% deserved a spot that needed him badly and would utilize him in the proper way, not as a pawn in a you-know-what measuring contest between the front office. Because that's essentially what he is.
The contest is that? I'm not sure if I know that contest.
But that's essentially what he is, in my opinion. He's literally being used as a pawn in their petty, like, mine's bigger than yours game. That's what's going on in the Philadelphia Eagles front office right now. And Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz are nothing but pawns in that game. Because if you're going to talk about benching veterans for, let's let the kids play, let's see what the young guys get. Okay, well, I'm sorry. Why didn't we start with Jason Peters? Why is Alshon Jeffrey taking Travis Fulgham's snaps?
Mm-hmm.
Why are these things happening? To me, making a quarterback change should have been the very last thing to do there. You see Alshon Jeffrey be a bum out there for a whole game? Fine. You sit his ass on the bench and you give Travis Fulgham those snaps back. You move everything around before making a quarterback change.
And isn't it funny? They make the quarterback change and then all of a sudden Jason Peters is sore, Alshon Jeffrey's sore. That's the joke of this franchise right now. That is a joke of this franchise. And like our guy Steve here says, right? This we have two great QBs. Like that's what everybody wants. No. And if you were just worried about having a backup for an injured Carson Wentz, you could get a backup in the 4th round. You could get a backup in the 5th round. And guess what? If you knew how to draft, maybe you would have got that when you took Clayton Thorson 2 years ago. Maybe you could have got that backup by drafting one of these other guys. But no, Clayton Thorson was your friggin' pick. By the way, for the 2nd straight year now, a draft pick, a guy the Eagles drafted late in the they cut. But anybody see Casey Tuhill making plays for the San Francisco 49ers the other day? There was another Eagles draft pick that, no, he can't be on the team because we got to give Vinny Curry snaps. Another guy who's aging and doesn't have a prayer anymore. Like, just isn't good enough. I mean, come on, guys. Yeah, as Ty Book says. But we're QB Factory is the new dream team. You know that, right?
No, it's worse than the dream team.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, first of all, someone put this up today. If you're a QB Factory, right, outside of Wentz and outside of Foles, Missinelli actually put it up for like 30 seconds. The quarterbacks you've drafted under this quarterback factory, Cobb, Thorson, Sudfeld, some other guys that never played, this guy that never played. Matt Barkley, you brought Mark Sanchez, Trent Daniel, or Chase Daniel. Trent Edwards had a cup of coffee here. I mean, you had to go get Josh McCown because of how bad you are at developing young.
Who, by the way, when you needed a backup quarterback last season in the playoff game, you used Josh McCown and not Nate Sudfeld.
Yeah, but you've been building these guys up. And look, I've been saying this for a while. I think there are people in this organization that soured on Wentz and want to get him out. And I think that's a disgrace. And my hope, my prayer, although I don't know if this is the way it goes down, like Wentz is going to be here next year. But because of the money, like it's historic. If they were to trade him, the dead money cap hit would be the largest in history of the NFL, I heard today. They're not going to do it. Not this organization. They're not going to do that. They already have cap. They're already in cap. Oh, and by the way, Howie's a cap master, right? Well, why are they in cap hell then?
There was I think Bleeding Green Nation actually put the article out today. I want to say BLG wrote it, but I think it was like NFL executives come to the conclusion that the Eagles are the Eagles cap. The Eagles cap is, quote, screwed. And I have to find it because the headline made me laugh so hard out loud for absolutely no reason. Well, pretty much if I don't laugh, I'll cry. That's what it comes down to. But, I mean, they're not going to, because essentially what happens is, I mean, at the end of the day, they didn't get rid of Alshon Jeffrey. They didn't just cut Alshon Jeffrey. They're not going to pay more than that with Carson Wentz to sit on the bench.
Right. And I think this is my best case scenario, what Steve just sent in. My best case scenario is Hurts plays well enough where then you get trade value for him. He goes somewhere where he can flourish and be a starter. You get a pick back. Howie's gone, so we don't have to worry about him wasting that pick. These are my best case scenarios, which obviously we all know.
Existence.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna keep. So, Jess, you haven't been privy to this. So there is a dissent amongst the Painted Lines. So the Painted Lines has a huge Eastern European following because Mr. Crockpot Dives put out a video last year at the end of the first half highlighting Furkan Korkmaz. And it went absolutely viral among Eastern. They loved it. So now they love TPL. But now there are a lot of guys within TPL who totally dislike Furkan Korkmaz. So there is this ongoing feud that there has not been a pod over the last week that someone hasn't brought up. Can we talk about Furkan Korkmaz? And our man Chris Coyle, who listens to literally every one of our pods, every pod on the Painted Lines he's in, he's like he pokes the bear. He likes to poke the Furkan bear. So it's always interesting.
Furkan Korkmaz should be like the person who comes in when the Sixers are winning by 30 and no other time.
Who do you want to see first off the bench? Furkan Korkmaz or Ryan Brokoff, a.k.a. Blippy?
Ryan Brokoff, hands down. The Sixers great, Ryan Brokoff. That's who I want to say.
I'm telling you. Listen, if Dylan was able to listen tonight, which I don't think he was, Dylan would be in these comments right now because Dylan is the ultimate Furkan hater. And like literally as we got ready to live stream the Eagles the other day, someone said, can we just talk about Furkan instead?
Remember when he went 0 for 7 from the floor in the playoffs? He was supposed to be our shooter, and he went 0 for 7 from the floor.
Yes,
In the first game, he didn't even take a shot.
Yeah.
His only points came from free throws. He didn't even make all the free throws that he took.
Yeah. Hey, listen, my Holy King, I love that you've listened to us and you've been with us the whole show. But first of all, Mick Foles might be his father. It's not him. Nick Foles was so great, as people want to put out. Mitchell Trubisky wouldn't have taken his job. Gardner Minshew wouldn't have taken his job. We need to look. I love Nick Foles, and he will forever be a hero in my book.
Absolutely.
But stop. Just stop.
But that man caught lightning in a bottle.
He did. He caught lightning in a bottle, just like the 2017 Eagles caught lightning in a bottle. The planets aligned, and everything worked out for them. Right? All right, Jess.
I got the tattoo because I think I'd forget it actually happened if I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really. So, Jess, I want you to plug Babes on Broad. Tell us what's going on. Tell us pre-gaming this week, or what are you doing?
Oh, are we?
Well,
there will be alcohol. My game notes are going to trail off at the end. I'll have to make sure I record that. We have a new episode. Our one episode came out on Tuesday. If you haven't listened to that, please do, because we talk a lot about
that's who they are. They just won. They didn't give up to a Carter home run.
Yeah.
Right.
Fair. So that episode was really great, if I do say so myself. I highly recommend listening to that. We have another episode coming out Saturday morning, so enjoy your Saturday coffee while listening to the Babes on Broad. And then Sunday, we will be back for our pregame show, 2:45, because they play again at 4. So we'll be back 2:45. Last week, I really tried to be creative and loop Red Zone into our stream. But then when I looped it in, it was all blurry. And I was like, well, that backfired. We were really hoping. We were a little bit of a hot mess last week. We thought we were going to be the Hot Mess Express and the Eagles were going to have a really solid day. And they just continued the Hot Mess Express right all the way to Lambeau. But yeah, so Saturday morning episode, Sunday, 2:45. No other football is more exciting than what we're going to be talking about. So come and hang out with us. We're more fun, I promise. And we'll have fun prop bets this week because they've been the same for a couple weeks now. Oh, they're all going to be different now.
Wow. All right. So as far as I am concerned, actually, after we get off the live stream here, I am walking to the other side of my basement here. I'm going to put the computer up on my tripod, and I am going to record the first ever episode of Voice of the People, No, this is not going to be live because it is going to be one take. I can promise you that. I'm going to get on there and I am going to rant about 15 minutes about this week in Philadelphia sports and then throw in, I'm always going to have a final thought. I've been going back and forth on what my final thought was going to be. And Mike Krzyzewski might have made my final thought a lot easier with his decision today to no longer play non-conference games after losing 2 home non-conference games. Kind of interesting how that worked out. So you will be able to catch that hopefully by tomorrow because I'm going to add some graphics and have some fun with this thing. But I've decided that I need to stand for this show. Like if I want to really do a rant show, I have to stand and be like I am teaching. Like all my students make fun of me because I'm a hand talker. So I'm animated. Ooh. Yes. So my kids dog me for it. So I figure I got to go stand up. And as Chris says, I want to be your hero during this time. I was challenged by calling myself the voice of the people on Twitter this week. But guess what? I still will continue doing it. So that first episode will be up. The game, we will live stream. So after you watch the Party on Broad pregame show Sunday, head over. There will be a live stream. Will I be on? Probably, just not sure when. When you have 3 kids, it's kind of hard to say, hey, I'm going to go live stream for 4 hours. Last week, I did the first half, and then Alyssa came down and stood there. And I kind of looked at her, and I said, you need me? She went, yeah. And I said, guys, I'm out. And that was the end of my live stream.
And that is that.
That was the end of my live stream. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. All the comments were great. We'll show more when it's just me and Jess. Just we wanted to give Ty the time. We want to thank Ty Johnson because out of all the guests we ever had, I don't know if anyone ever gave us, outside of Trey, really gave us that much time. So we really appreciate it. Jess, get some sleep.
I might actually have to go back to work right now.
Okay. Well, then you're not getting any sleep, but have a great week nonetheless. Everybody enjoy your week, and especially come Sunday, embrace the madness. Have a great week, everybody.
Are you ready?
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
I was right.
Let's go!
I'm the best.
And here are your hosts, Jessica Town and Rob Lange.
You're a jackass.
Embrace the madness.